This is The Top, where I interview entrepreneurs who are number one or number two in their industry in terms of revenue or customer base. You'll learn how much revenue they're making, what their marketing funnel looks like, and how many customers they have.
I'm now at $20,000 per talk.
5 and 6 million.
He is hell-bent on global domination.
We just broke our 100,000 units sold mark.
And I'm your host, Nathan Latka.
When I do webinar interviews or I give big speeches to thousands of people all over the world, I usually will talk about data and sometimes show my dashboards, like my SaaS dashboard as I'm growing my SaaS company to top inbox, or my website dashboard, which shows how I take impressions to convert them into email leads and convert them into customers for nathanlatka.com. The funny thing is, guys, I build these dashboards with myself, no developer, and it's basically free. And I use one tool to do it. You can see the tool at nathanlatka.com/analytics. I'll tell you more later in the show. This is episode 652, and coming up tomorrow morning, we have Maria on. She invests $120 million into financial technology companies. If you're a female and you want to see more female founders and smart women in our world, you don't want to miss Maria. Her company's put through 39 graduates so far and is accepting 6 to 8 new per year with the New York Partnership Fund. Good morning, everybody. My guest this morning is Gaurav Dillon. He's an early investor in a company called SnapLogic. He joined as CEO in 2009 when he saw the potential to transform how companies integrate applications, data, and devices for digital business. He spearheaded SnapLogic's rapid growth and oversees its strategy, products, and operations. He was previously the co-founder and CEO of Informatica. Gaurav, are you ready to take us to the top?
I'm on it.
All right, let's have some fun. So first things first, I want to understand the transition from Informatica to SnapLogic. So what happened at Informatica? Why'd you leave?
Yeah, so basically, look, I built that. I wouldn't say we, in particular, my co-founder and I built that up from our garage. We had a $75,000 SBA grant that we used and then raised venture capital to build that into a market leader in the data warehousing and ETL space.
How much total did you raise?
We raised $13.5 millian.
Got it. Okay.
Those were different times. It was the world before the internet, and it was just a wonderful time for me as a 27-year-old chief executive. But it was a lot of working Sundays. You know, it was 12 odd years of working Sundays. Took it public in 1999. Then ran it for another 5 years. Couple of busts, 99 bust, the 2003 bust, 9/11. And it was 11, 12 years is a long time. It's time to go. And I think also fundamentally, this is getting long-winded here, but my strategy was to go build new products. And in that kind of public environment, there wasn't an appetite for risk. There was more of an appetite to harvest earnings per share and so on. So it was time for me to move on. In hindsight, I was probably crisp a year or two before I did move on.
Gaurav, be a capitalist, a cold-hearted capitalist with me for a second. You personally wanting to get your own wealth out of Informatica, you deserved it. You worked hard to build it. How did you extract money for yourself from this? Did you sell your shares back? How'd you do that?
Yeah, so look, I am not a cold-hearted capitalist. I'm a company builder. For me, wealth is a byproduct. And, it's just who I am. You build something great, there's enough for everybody. So how did we do it? So first of all, when I did the IPO, I was able to sell some of my shares after the IPO in a secondary, which is a very good way.
There was no lockout?
No, because in the secondary process, you're registered with the SEC for a secondary sale of shares. And some of those shares are sold to some of the proceeds go to the company and some of the proceeds go back to the selling shareholders, which were some venture capitalists. I took a portion of my shareholding and sold it. But it's an open and public view. There's a book. You build a book. Thanks to Charles Phillips and some of the people at Morgan Stanley, some of Frank Cotrone's team here in Silicon Valley, we did a $480 million secondary. Of most of the proceeds went to the company, but
what was the primary? What would you raise in the initial public offering?
I think it was less than 100. It's so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. That's how Tableau did, which shares some finance board members with my old company and so on.
Really?
So that's
the
the right way to do it.
Secondary was 4 times as much as the initial, huh?
Yeah, if you do well, that's the right way to do it.
Interesting.
Look, because the IPO, you're also trying to build a brand for yourself. Nobody knows you as a company or as an executive. So if you do a modest IPO, you got to price it so there's some wealth for the new buyers. And as they do well, they get a sense. You do a couple of good quarters and you have the right momentum, and then they're very much more confident of buying a bigger chunk. And at that point, you can price it more efficiently instead of trying to do it all in one go. So, and I certainly feel that was good policy.
So take us through the exit here. What year did you leave the business in, and then how did you get involved with SnapLogic?
Yeah, so I left in July 2004, and for 1 year, I did nothing. I had certain bucket list items. I wanted to learn a language, so I learned Spanish. I wanted to travel in certain parts of the world, want to spend some time with my parents before they got too old. I did that. And I also wanted to win the bet that many of my friends made with me that I wouldn't last more than 6 months. So I basically left the country and moved to Argentina. I'm like, I'm going to win this. I got to get out of Silicon Valley.
You had no internet connection, so you were going to win that bet no matter what.
I was going to win that bet by moving far, far away, and so I did. Anyway, so how did I get here? So basically what I did after Informatica, as you can imagine, after the time off, came back to the Valley, and then boom, it begins, right? You know someone who knows someone who has an idea. And many ideas came up. I joined a couple of boards. I was on a board with then what became our investors in Andreessen Horowitz. I was on a board with them, a couple other sort of pro bono type of board things. People had helped me, and it was time to help others. And from that, I was in a board meeting, and it became pretty clear that this business internet, as we called it, I'm ashamed to admit, about 10 odd years ago, which we now call cloud computing, is going to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. People aren't just going to buy books on the web; they're going to balance their books on the web. And as that became clear, it became clear to me that there was an opportunity for integration.
So 2000. No, Gaurav, sorry, I was going to take you through. So 2009, you joined officially, kind of as CEO. When was the company launched, though? How long had it been around before you joined?
Yeah. So the company, actually, I put the capital into, I would say, a science project in about 2006 from my pro bono work on various boards. And I said to these guys, the first couple, 5, 6 people, I wrote them a check and said, guys, if there's a business here, prove it to me. And if it is, we'll go get the capital for it.
What was the risk you took? What was the check size?
The initial check was $1 million.
Okay, got it. And was
still
that
the honorable amount to launch something with?
Sure. Was that part of an angel round?
No, it was, I would say, well, how do we do it? We structured that as convertible debt because I've been negotiating with myself. How do I set the valuation?
That's got to be one of the first convertible notes. Really, obviously, everyone does them now.
Yes. Yeah, it was a very early one.
Yep.
And I had very good advice from my attorneys at Morrison and Forster, who had also been attorneys for me at Informatica and at BEA and other companies. Mm-hmm. And they're fantastic guys. And they said, look, how would you set the valuation? I'm like, that's true. So why don't you do a convertible note and convert that at the first outside money that comes in. And in the meantime, your capital goes in as debt, and then you convert. And that's exactly what we did.
Got it. And then fast forward to today, and then we'll go back to more of the story. How much capital total have you guys raised?
We've raised $136 million.
Okay.
And it's been in successive rounds, initially venture with Andreessen Horowitz, and then Ignition, who've done very well with Splunk, and they understand machine data from that investment and fabulous return. And then most recently, we brought in Vitruvian Partners, who are a global growth equity firm headquartered in London, opening an office in Silicon Valley. So they led the most recent round.
And that was the $40 million Series F in December?
That's correct.
And what is so now let's kind of dig in from a product perspective. All the product people listening will get excited about this. So try and explain to us, what does SnapLogic do, and what do your customers pay you for?
Right. So look, what we are seeing is essentially a Rocky 2 movie, right? So what was Rocky 1 for me was in the mid-90s, people getting rid of mainframes and bringing in what we now call client-server technology, okay? So what did we do? We built companies like Informatica to hook up those products with each other and with the legacy that existed prior. It was a very good run for us, and we all grew very well. SAP's become a monster company. We got Informatica at over $1 billion in revenue. It ultimately sold for $5.7 billion. So what we're doing at SnapLogic, in a sense, is similar. We are connecting the new cloud applications to what is now legacy, which were the new applications 20 years ago, right? So it's in a sense Rocky 2. And look, I'm not alone, right? If you think about Workday, what is that? It's Dave and Anil kind of doing their second act. They did the same thing in client server. They're doing it in the cloud. And what we're doing at SnapLogic is expanding out the product set to provide all kinds of connections, not just ETL like we did at Informatica, but also real-time ones. to provide app integration in addition to data integration from a single platform. And that is, we think, just wonderful because we are riding in the wake of the cloud.
So, Gaurav, you're probably going to hate this analogy, so I'm going to ask for forgiveness beforehand and then say it anyway. Is this basically an unsexier version of Zapier, but way more important because so much of this old infrastructure still permeates the software industry?
I would take that maybe and say, I don't dislike it. I think if you look at IFT and Zapier, they're consumer plays.
Yep.
And there have been companies like Bump who've tried to do certain kinds of things, and you can get a lot of millions of people using it. But, I haven't seen them be able to be big companies. We saw that in the past with a variety of companies trying to do screen scraping technology in the 90s and so on. And they're still around. They get to a couple million and they hang around. They get millions of users, but they don't get millions of dollars. So I would take that and say, yes, that is the problem at every strata of business. What they're solving at IFT and Zapier is at the personal level. How do I use IFT, for example, to shop for, I'm giving the secret away. I shop for used Leica cameras on Craigslist. And I have an IFT trigger that goes off if somebody lists a Leica camera on Craigslist. Perfect usage. You can use Zapier in the same way. But if you're trying to connect your Workday human capital management system with your SAP financial system, and you're a big multi-billion-dollar business, whether you're Adobe in high tech or AstraZeneca in pharmaceuticals, or you are someone in the food business like Denny's or Subway, well, you know what? You probably need something like SnapLogic.
Yep.
So yes, I would say we're the industrial version.
Makes good sense.
Of some of these toys out there. And, we do a pretty good job on the industrial end of it.
Makes good sense. All right. And what is walk us through, I don't want to get into every cohort of customer you have, but is this a SaaS model?
It's a PaaS model. That's correct. It's a SaaS
platform, platform as a service. So, but in
general,
true, monthly recurring
fees. It's a true
fees.
Cloud product. Yeah. A true cloud product.
Okay.
It runs, there's always a cloud element to it. And then you have varying degrees, depending on your data gravity. If you have a lot of on-prem data, then you have a big, what we call groundplex, a lot of SnapLogic. It's like Google Chrome. There's some piece running here, some piece running in the cloud. So that partitioning balloons up on here, and there's less in the cloud.
And so what's the average, Gaurav, take me back to your customer stuff here. So what's the average customer, would you say, paying you per month or per year?
About $136 per year.
Okay,
$136,000.
That's kind of your ACV.
Yes.
Okay, got
it.
I
want to make sure it's $136,000.
Yeah, not we'd be in trouble.
Fairness,
we'd be in trouble if it was $136. Okay, $136,000 annual contract value. That makes good sense. And then when you're measuring, I mean, this is a big business. How many employees you guys have?
We're right at about 250. Okay. Although by the time this podcast is over, it could be 262. I don't know.
Let's hope. And I want 10. Well. And I want 10% commission. Cheerfully. And that's just throw me a bone. All right. So 250 folks, I imagine with $136,000 ACV, you're looking at 7-figure LTVs, correct?
Probably more than that. I mean, what we saw in my old company was some of the larger companies were 8 figures.
Yep.
And it's, so we've got many customers in 7 figures already per annum. And it's just a start, because and here's the way to think about it. You can always do 7-8 figure value if you can provide more than that to the buyer of it. As a business person, you can always buy that what you can sell.
Yep. What is the reason I asked the question about LTV is I assume you guys have a pretty significant kind of inside sales force, and that brings me to the question of CAC. So what are you willing to acquire a new customer?
Yeah. It's modest. We don't sell inside. We have inside qualification people, SDRs, we call them. They're basically, someone says, hey, contact me, or I'd like to see a demo. Typically, an SDR takes that call, makes sure it's in the target segment, lines it up with the right sales rep, and then the sales rep then engages.
What's your ratio of SDRs to sales reps?
It's, depending on the territory, 1:1 or 1:2.
Okay.
In some of the newer places, it's more 1:1 as we're expanding aggressively in Europe and Australia. So that's more 1:1, which is what we were in the US 2 years ago.
Yep.
But it's 1:2 now.
And how many of the 250 total employees are SDRs?
Boy.
Do you know?
Ooh. less than 20.
Okay, got it. That's good to know. So less than 20.
Yeah.
So what are you, I mean, as a CEO that's kind of driving this business and your pro formas, your Excel sheets, et cetera, I mean, what are you willing to spend on CAC, knowing what your other economics look like?
I'm willing to spend what gives me, I would say, incremental operating leverage. This is probably the one financial term I know. I studied electrical engineering, not finance.
You had to sneak that term in. You had to sneak, you had to sneak that term in somewhere in this 15-minute interview, right?
My finance committee made me do it.
What the hell does that mean? What does that mean?
It's actually straightforward, right? And we look at it as some of the ratios in SaaS. You're looking for a way, look, if you spend money today on sales and marketing, at what point does your leverage flip over? If you put in, say, $1 million in sales and marketing today, is that going to produce more than $1 million or less than $1 million in next quarter, right? Yep. So we basically think about, and the reality is there are diminishing returns at some point. So we are willing, with the capital that we've raised, and frankly, we're not a hype company. We're a buzz company. Customers love us. We are now getting deals where we've been in business for a couple of years. We have hundreds of customers all over the globe, all the way from, sort of A through Z.
Is that, would you say that's like 500, 700? Give us a general range.
About 700.
About 700. Okay.
750 actually.
Okay. So 750
but it's the who's who. It's the who's who. It's stuff like, McKinsey and Verizon and, people like Denny's and, Bristol Myers Squibb, and it's the who's who. But the point is, if you're in business for a couple of years, inevitably in IT, there's turnover. You know what? We're getting so many people calling us on their new job and saying, hey, man, come on in here. How do we get this in here? Yep. That to me, that combination of having a breakthrough product, a transformational product at a time when cloud is just exploding all over is the magic moment for us. So really, when it comes down to CAC, et cetera, I'm willing to spend into that demand, but I am not willing to lean over skis to the point where we jeopardize and bet too much on the future.
Let me try and pour some concrete around that. You're more interested in what I'm willing to spend, whatever it takes, but the payback period. That's really what you're talking about. You have to get your cash back in the first 4 months.
No, I wouldn't say 4 months, but I would say we're willing to invest as long as we're looking at incremental growth linked to that investment in a good way. 4 months might be too short. Yeah. That might be just the initial value. But if I'm looking at, say, a large company, I don't know, pick somebody we don't have, which is getting harder. I don't know. Who should we pick on? Hang on, running down my list.
AIG.
Citibank. We don't have Citibank yet. Okay. So what does Citibank have? Well, they have 50,000 developers, of which about 10,000 people, or a couple thousand, maybe close to 10, do ETL jobs.
What's
how much should we spend? Yeah, extract, transform, load, which is sort of an integration for data, right? So how much should we?
Yeah, I was going to say, using comparables, what are they worth to you?
If you think about it, fully loaded, what is the cost of a human being in New York, and then some other stuff is offshore? So blended rate, $150,000 a year per person. Let's say it's 5,000. Well, that's 15.5. That's 75 million a year is what they're spending.
Yeah. You're taking $5,000 times the 50,000 employees.
I'm taking 150,000 times $5,000 and 75, right? And then if my zeros are correct, that's 75 million a year.
That's accurate.
And that's one company, okay? So if I can come in and show them how those guys could go faster, or they don't need that many. The truth is data is exploding, so they're going to need all those guys. They can just get a lot more done with the same guy.
The reason I'm digging here is because I think it's totally wrong for SaaS founders to focus so exclusively on LTV to CAC ratio. What's more important is the speed of LTV. In other words, if your lifetime value in terms of months is 7 years, you can't spend 1/3 of LTV on CAC because it takes you too long to get the money back.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So you nailed it, right? It's payback period.
Thank you. There's advantages to being older. And one of those is I've seen a few bubbles go bust, right?
You're way smarter than us. That's it.
But no, not always. But the flip side of that is you don't want to be too conservative, right? Because the early market share you get is the best market share, always.
Yep.
Right? It's so much harder for Amazon to expand into Brazil today or set up operations in India because there are people there. Yep. So they have to go deal with them first, right? So this is where that business metric comes in. So look, when we were starting Informatica, this is coming on 25 years. Bob Oster, who was the CFO of Oracle, he was some of the people who put money into Oracle, also funded Business Objects and Informatica with the same people. And they taught me a lot. And here's a simple rubric. Here it is. If you try to do six-figure deals and try to have more customers than employees.
There you go. There you have it. Few last
You're
questions.
Set.
Go ahead,
You're
Gaurav.
set.
Yeah, you're right. Few last quick questions here just before we wrap up. I'm doing the math. 750 customers, a minimum of, call it 136,000 ACV or your average. You guys are well into the, 9 figures in ARR now, right?
Now, not all of them are direct customers. Some of them are OEMs as well.
Okay.
So we're not going to break it up as easily because, look, in a private company atmosphere, you want to, sort of obey some of the quiet things that you have to be before you're ready to really disclose your numbers.
Give me a huge range that lets you stay vague enough. And the reason I asked the 9-figure number, I mean, in today's day and age, when I talk to the folks at Sauce Labs I just had on that raised about as much as you guys have, they talk about getting into you have to be really in the 9-figure range between 100 million and 150 million to really think about going public. Have you guys broke that 9-figure ARR rate or no?
No.
Okay, got it. But close, maybe.
I like what we're trending. So here's what I can tell you.
I love Groove. I love you. This is great.
Look, if you deal with Wall Street investors, this is nothing.
He's got a big old smile on his face right now. He's like, how can I get around this dude?
No, but let me give you a feel for it, right? A company that can double its revenue, as we have done for years and will continue to do 4 years to come, has nothing to fear. You'll be fine. No doubt we're burning through a modest amount of cash. We've raised about half of what the average SaaS company does to an IPO. Half. Now I'm a little embarrassed that it's 10 times more than I raised the first time around, but that was perpetual. It was in the last century. Things are more expensive now, certainly engineering talent and so on. But that said, what we're doing is building a robust business, which no doubt is growing aggressively, but also has its feet on the ground. A good stance.
Like I told you guys at the top of this episode, I have amazing data, and you guys know from my interview style, I love data. But what I love more than data is making it actionable via beautiful dashboards that I can view on my phone, on my TVs in my living room, or even on my laptop as I'm traveling. And the company that I use to create these dashboards, which pulls in data from my Libsyn backend, my Google Analytics backend, Salesforce, and other data sources, is called Clipfolio. You can see an example executive dashboard or my social media command center or my web metrics dashboard at nathanlatka.com/analytics. That's nathanlatka.com/analytics. And you can try it there for free for 3 months. It's Clipfolio. You can try it free for 3 months. Everybody else has to pay. So you get it free for 3 months. Alan's a good friend. He's the CEO of the company. He came on the show. I said, I love your product. Can I feature it? So nathanlatka.com/analytics. Go check it out now. Very good. All right, let's wrap up here with the famous 5 Groove. This is like cake compared to these other questions, okay? Okay. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
I would say The Power of Habit. It's not what people think is business book, but I love it.
Number 2. Go ahead. You want to expand on that one?
No, that's okay.
Okay, number 2. Is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Andy Grove. I still read his books. But that's my second book. High Output Management.
He's a good one.
Rest in peace. He's the man.
Yeah. Lost a good one there. Number 3, is there a favorite online tool you have, like Acuity Scheduling?
I would say probably just Gmail. I like what they do. It's probably my favorite thing right now. I'm looking for, if somebody wants a big check for us to buy something, I'm looking for the modern equivalent of 7 Habits. How do you do quadrant 2 time management and planning? It's really missing. We have a lot of to-do lists, a lot of noise. We need more signal in our scheduling and in our strat planning, because the money we can make or lose, time we can never buy. So I'm actually in the market for something. So let me throw it out there.
Interesting. That's good. I bet you'll actually get calls or tweets from that. That's good. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
7 is a good night. The average is, I would say, between 5.5. Is my wife listening to this?
No, hopefully not.
Hope not. I'd say probably rounds up to 6, just to make sure I can keep peace at home. But boy, 7 is a good night.
And what's your situation? Obviously, you're married. Any kiddos?
2 kids.
2 kids.
2 wonderful girls. 16 and 9. They are amazing. Yeah, they're amazing.
And how old are you?
I just turned 50.
Oh, congratulations.
Big
5-0. That's a big one. That's a big one. All right. Last question. Gaurav, take us back 30 years. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
I would say I wish he knew more that opportunity knocks softly. We get so busy solving problems. Sometimes we don't allow the time and space to listen for that opportunity, a soft knock. That's probably the one thing I would say to myself, listen better.
I love that.
Opportunity knocks softly. Yeah.
There you guys have it. From Gaurav, Dylan took over, jumped in, wrote an early check, betting on some founders in 2006, put in $1 million, said, show me this is a real business. 2009, he liked what he saw, joined as CEO. They raised about $136 million. Company's called SnapLogic. They've bought, and they're helping out 750 true enterprise customers. You're talking, $130,000 ACVs here, helping 750 customers really wire all of their just human resource, everything online, right? And anything that's connecting, any data streams, etc., anything like that, right? An enterprise version of Zapier and some of these other tools at a much larger scale. They've got over 250 folks spread around the world. 20 of them are in the SDR kind of role. Again, 750 customers paying on average, call it, about 10 grand per month, leading to about 7-ish million in MRR. He won't confirm or deny that, but I'm just doing the math. Gaurav, thank you for taking us to the top.
My pleasure, Nathan. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed today's episode, go back and listen to Garth with Pipple yesterday. Pipple indexes 3.5 billion people so you can quickly access and get anybody's contact data. It would mean the world to me if you guys got any value from this episode, if you would go leave a review on iTunes right now and then subscribe. I hustle like heck to get these episodes out every freaking day for you guys. And trust me, I love it. I would do it with no listeners, but boy, oh boy, it makes my day and it makes my team's day when we see great reviews and get your feedback. So thanks so much. Okay, Top Tribe, I love giving away free money. I feel like Oprah giving away cars, and I have something special for you today. How many of you have heard our super sharp guests talk about success they've had with Facebook and Google ads? Well, all of you listening right now, yes, if you're listening, you get $100 in free AdWords. Here's how you get it, okay? Again, thanks for listening. Get the free $100 from Google, right, when you sign up with my website host provider, HostGator. Go sign up now to get your free money. HostGator.com/Nathan. Again, that's HostGator.com/Nathan.